Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is actually part two. Episode 7 was the first half, and I'll call this one episode 8 just to keep it all neat and organized. And we'll jump right back into it with Nick's team.
Next team, Nick with Team Black Sox Innocent. He was fourth overall in the totals when we first did this. He started off 3-6 versus Chris, but man, Chris's team started off so hot. There was no shame in that. Then he went 6-4 in Vince, which at the time seemed pretty great because, Vince is the football god. He actually knows about fantasy sports and baseball. So that was a really big win for Nick. And since then, it's kind of just been up and down, right? He's had a tie. He's had two terrible losses, 2-7, 3-7. Then he's had two pretty good wins, 6-3 versus Ethan, 8-1 versus Thomas. So I don't know. It's hard to come to any big conclusions on Nick. He was fourth overall at week 2. Where do you guys have him now? Sixth in batting, fourth in pitching.
Is anyone in fourth position right now? Can I say no change? Do we have a fourth?
I don't think we've declared a fourth overall yet.
I think I'll leave him right where he is.
All right. I will say he had all those really high at bats and he had those really high innings pitched as well when we looked at that a couple weeks ago. Ethan, what's your guess on
I'll,
this?
I'll give him a fifth.
Dropping him down to fifth? Almost right. He actually drops down to sixth. He goes from a 48 to a 57, so 9-point drop. And his batting got worse. It went from sixth to eighth, and his pitching got a little worse, fourth to fifth. Uh, yeah, I just whip's hard to hold on to. It's funny because his whip's 1.1, and that puts him in third place. And then now his whip is 1.1, and he's in first place. So it didn't change, just everybody else has changed around him. I know it's weird. His ERA is still 2.59 also from week 2. It's crazy those two stayed the same to me. But yeah, my big thing I noticed when I was looking through his numbers, home runs, RBIs, and averages, he's 2-5 in all of those. So really, really bad scoring on batting. And then for saves, he's eighth place, so he's only 1-3-3. He might actually even be lucky that he got those 3 ties. So his team's dropped down, I think, noticeably.
He's got some players who are just underperforming in general, though. When you look at his team, Soto is not the Soto that we expected this year.
Juan Soto. Washington's not the team a lot of people expected. The Nationals.
Preseason ranked number 2. Right now, it looks like he's sitting at 97. That's you can't have that. You've got Chris Bryant, obviously expected to be in the top 60 preseason, and he's
Oh,
dead. Is he dead now? Can we declare that?
he's not. So he's having back issues, so that's just going to linger all year and be a problem, right?
Dead.
And then for pitching, I can't remember if I also had him with. I don't remember what pitchers he had when we started. I would have to look through his team. I think he had one of the teams though where I didn't really like the pitchers.
He picked up Nola, so he's built that up a little bit. Actually, I think
he got Aaron Nola for free thanks to Ethan dropping him. And
I dropped Clevenger, not knowing that we had that IL position. So you're welcome to. Although he really hasn't done much.
And he has DeGrom if DeGrom ever plays again, which I have my doubts. But
we'll see. Gilbert's been playing great recently.
But Nick has been a surprise, I'll say. I think I had him the lowest rated team going into the season. And I feel like Nick is very active and makes a lot of moves. And he always seems to have really high at-bats. He's 8th overall in saves.
A crazy amount of at-bats.
Crazy amount of at-bats and innings pitched, which I think we looked at that data at week 3 or 4, and it's changed. I've recrunched all the numbers again recently, which we can look at later, but he's been really active. I've been impressed by his performance. And I feel like it's just tradition, though. Whenever we do this podcast, I point out a bunch of stuff I hate about his team. And I know it looks like that again because I'm talking about how his team's been worse. And now I'm rating him 6th overall. But that's just the way. These are just the numbers, Nick. This isn't me. This is the numbers.
That save stat is bound to go up. He picked up Clay Holmes. Great pickup, Nick.
Yeah, he's also had really good pickups.
Yeah.
Almost always when I go to pick up someone and they're already picked up, it's usually either Lucas or Nick has already picked them up. And so yeah, I think Nick's made a lot of good moves.
Nick
All right.
with the unable to go to bed issues that he has, and then what's that called? Narcolepsy? Sorry, Nick.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, staying up
I
late,
just
making those pickups.
I just set my alarm at 4:30 in the morning sometimes. I'm like, I really need a couple players.
That's
Art
insane to me.
with Team Pine Riders, he would be 4-1-2. He was ranked 3rd overall, 5th in batting, 3rd in pitching. Week 2 when we did this. Since week 2, he just keeps winning, man. 6-4, 7-2, 5-4, 7-3. And then, father versus son matchup, Vince versus Pine Riders, he finally gets a tie. 4-4.
I'm just glad I beat him when he was weak.
That's his only loss on the year.
I know.
And I think he listened to the podcast and heard Ethan say he was going to be weak 1. And he fell for it. He slept on it.
Yeah, I showed him.
You showed him his boss, and he can't ever take that away from you. So 3rd was already pretty high. How do you guys feel he's done since then?
I might move him up 1.
Yeah, I think he's 2nd.
Giving him the
I mean,
2?
he's no. Yeah.
All right. Well, there's no fooling you guys. Yeah, he moved up. He moved up 1 spot into 2nd. Batting is he went from 5th to 3rd, and pitching maintained 3rd place. So yeah, he's just gotten a little better. He was already really good. So, I mean, the main thing is just trying to maintain it. Home runs and strikeouts, he's 6-1 in both of those. And I feel like those are both great indications of all other stats, right? Like if you're getting a lot of strikeouts, you're probably also getting wins. And it probably means you have good pitchers, so probably getting good ERA and WHIP. His ERA, but he's actually weak in ERA and WHIP, 7th and 8th. So ERA, WHIP, and stolen bases are his 3 weak points for anyone facing Art. Combined, so all 3 of those categories combined, his score would be 6, 14, and 2. So that's his weak point. He's 9th rated in stolen bases, 8th in WHIP, 7th in ERA. So if you're trying to target a way to beat Art, I guess that's somehow use that knowledge. That's hard to use against him, though. That's the crazy part. Like, we talked about how random stolen bases are. And then how do you improve on ERA and WHIP? You either have good pitchers or you don't. It's not like I can start a bunch of pitchers. That'll probably hurt my ERA and WHIP. So I don't know how you use this knowledge against him, but I guess that's why his team's ranked so high.
I think that he was the one who picked up Ty France, wasn't he? Yeah, it looks like he's got Ty France. I think he was that might have been one of those referencing one of those pickups where you see him pick that up and you're like, God, I wish I had thought of that at the time. Now France isn't quite as hot, but he was hot there for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Gosman's been amazing for him. He has Josh Harder, Kenley Jansen as relief pitchers. And, I don't know. He's just... Eric Lauer started off really hot, too. So I'll be curious if he can maintain this grade of pitching. But so far, he's had no issues.
Feast has been a strikeout monster this season. We'll see if he can keep it up.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Art. It's hard when you look... I don't know if you've looked at it, but there's a way to look at everyone's Yahoo rating. Have you guys ever looked at that?
Yeah, he's platinum.
He's platinum. Yeah, and every time you face him, you have to look at that platinum level every single day. I'm happy, though, whenever we beat him, to see him lose that rating. Like, Vince went 4-4 with him, so his rating is... Right now, if you look at it, it says -1. He lost a bit of that rating. So if you beat him, like when Ethan beat him week 1, he lost rating for that. It's like, yeah, he just lost to a bronze player.
And then he proceeded to beat everyone else.
Yeah. His lifetime...
But he couldn't beat me.
His lifetime record is 207 wins, 118 losses and 44 ties. So, .62 winning
solid.
percentage, pretty solid. Yeah, pretty solid player. The next one, Chris. This was one of my favorite teams post draft because I just thought amazing batting team. He was second overall. Yeah, second overall in the ratings at week 2. He was first in batting by a lot. He was first in every category except stolen bases. And then pitching, he was 7th. 6-3 week 1, then 4-3 versus Lucas. And then I destroyed him week 3, 2-8. He recovered. You know, that was a punch to the face. He came back. He beat Vince 5-3. He thought everything's fine. It wasn't fine. Aaron came, kicked him in the balls 2-7. Art came by and slapped him 3-7. It was all looking terrible. Maybe the season's over. He pulled it together. He beat Ethan week 7, 6-3. As bad as that stretch is at some points, overall his record would be 4-3. He has 4 wins, 3 losses.
About 500.
Yeah. So where do you guys put Chris at now that we're at week 7? Because it is hard to maintain that second overall place. Like that was pretty high.
Yeah, I think maybe he dropped 2 spots. Although I think we've got 4th place already locked up. Maybe 1 spot or something.
I want to say he's. Have we said 6? He's 6 or 7.
We'll have to find out. Yeah, he dropped down to 5th place.
Wow.
So, second, down 3 spots, down to 5th. Pretty big jump. And where he's bad, he's really bad. Stolen bases. He's 8th overall. So I think this is a little bit of bad luck. Oh, I'm sorry, he's 10th overall. He's 0-5 stolen bases with 2 draws. Strikeouts, he's 1-5. I thought that was going to go up. When we were looking at his team week 2, it was like, oh, his strikeouts are kind of low, but that's no problem. He can just stream pitchers and it'll be fine. It hasn't been. He's 1-5-1. And RBIs, which runs batted in, he's 5th overall. He's a 4-3 record. So RBIs are his only positive scoring category in batting now after 7 weeks. And he was first by a lot after week 2. So the next 5 weeks, not been kind to him in batting.
He's had a lot of injury issues with Correa and Buxton, to be fair to his team.
A lot of injuries. And it is fallen. It's been a collapse from first place.
Jonathan India has been injured on and off like the entire season.
Yep.
Momo's is back on the IL.
He's actually improved in pitching, other than strikeouts. Like ERA and WHIP, 5th place, so right in the middle. 3rd in wins and 1st place in saves. But yeah, he's dropped a bit, which is sad to see. I think he can still be a dangerous team if that batting can get healthy, or if he starts dropping people and picking people up, or maybe, I don't know, making trades. Like at this point, I would just trade an IL player. He was out of IL spots. That's the big trouble he ran into. Like he had to have bench spots filled with IL spots, which just means it just that happened to me the last 2 weeks also, where I'm losing bench spots to injured players. And at some point, I feel like you need to either drop them or trade them. Like, maybe someone else has an IL spot and you can just trade them. And they'll value the player enough to hold them on IL and give you something else you can use now. I don't know. But I originally, I think, picked Chris to be a top 4 team. So I'm hoping to see him recover and bounce back. And then the number 1 team from week 2, Scott, he started off very hot. 8-1 versus Aaron, 5-5 versus Art. And honestly, other than week 4 when I destroyed him 2-5, other than that, he's either gotten a tie or a win. So he would be 4-1-2 overall on the standings. How do you guys think of Scott's team?
I'm proud of myself for playing. Yeah, I mean, proud to play him last week.
I think he's still number 1.
Definitely on the standings, he's number 1.
He's got to be number 1.
He's got to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in even trying to build up the suspense on it. He's still clearly number 1. In fact, he's improved a lot. His overall score was 36 at week 2, and his overall score is 29 now. So he is just dominating. His one bad category so far, I guess, has been whip, where he's 3 wins, 4 losses. But yeah, he's really, really good. I don't know what else you can say. He's pretty much good at everything.
The scariest thing, I think, is that Teoscar Hernandez has not even been good yet. Like, can you imagine his team when Teoscar Hernandez begins to really get in the swing of things and start hitting some bombs?
Yeah, I mean, how do you improve from already first overall in batting? So, yeah, I don't know. His team is very surprising to me. When we did the initial preseason view, I was like, okay, he's probably a pretty good pitching team, and he's got some really good hitters. But those really good hitters have been very, very good, and his team's just, I don't know, dream team. Like his overall final ranking's 29. If you look at dead last place, which is Ethan's team, his score is 76. So low score is what you want to go for. 76 all the way down to Scott, who's 29. Big jump. Yeah. Oh, I guess I have this one, the final standings here. But yeah, final rankings. Lucas moved up the most, 4. I moved up 3 spots. And the 2 biggest fallers were Chris and Vince. Dropped a bunch. 3 spots each. So yeah, that's the, I guess I've been calling them baseball cards. But yeah, that's our team stat cards. I just like checking in. I don't really plan to check in again unless I get excited. Then maybe I will do it earlier. But I was planning to check in after week 14. So then we'll be 2/3 of the way through the season. And then once we hit the playoffs, I'll probably check in again week 21, your final ranking on the cards. Yeah. As you know, I like to crunch numbers, so 7 weeks down, 14 regular seasons weeks to go. Here's kind of the a shot at the stats. And I wanted to show this after all the cards because it kind of gives away how the cards are going to end up looking, right? I just did green and red, and all that is telling you is the average. So are you matching it or above it? So, for example, in the first one, runs category, the average for all of our teams is 236.8. So there's some teams above it, some teams below it. It's not always 5 above, 5 below. It can vary. There's certain categories that are weighted by terrible teams doing bad. So I'll jump over to whip. The average is 1.17, but Pete, Rose, so Chris, and Ethan's whip is so bad that they're the only 2 below average. Everyone else is above it. It's not always 5. But anyway, yeah, so I took all the stats, looked at all the averages, gave you a green if you're above, red if you're below, and then I looked at all the team's totals for how many are you above average. So, for example, my team rated really well at this. I was above average 8 times out of 10. And Art's team was above average on 9 categories. The only one that he's not is stolen bases, which I think he's just completely punted that category.
Oh, 100%.
But yeah, this was interesting to look at for me just because I wanted to see where there was some outliers or...
look at Scott with 293 RBIs.
Yeah, it's crazy. ERA was kind of crazy. Thomas, Vince, and Ethan are just so much higher than everyone else. Like everyone's in the like 3s. Like 3.5 is pretty high, I think. That's Art is at 3.49, right? And then Ethan jumps up to 3.99. And then Thomas and Vince are well over 4. They're both 4.3. So just way higher ERA. I don't know what's happened. I haven't looked at it on a week-to-week basis, but man, their ERA are very, very high.
That high ERA.
So then I went, and this is breaking it down per week, right? So it's breaking down weeks 1 through 7. And for innings pitched, I found out, so I didn't count week 1 because week 1's 1.5 weeks, right? So I took the average for weeks 2 through 7 and found it to be 58.1. And then I created a range. I'm like, all right, 58's the average. looking at these weeks, you should be at 55 to 65 innings pitched. Are you following me so far?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're below that number, below 55, it's red. If you're above 65, it's green. And if you're in the range, it's yellow. So yellow's not bad. That just means you're in the range of where you want to be for innings pitched. And then, Ethan, I'm glad you're on the call because you're just every week have been red. There's been no week pitched.
I do quality pitches instead of quantity.
That's what I was hoping you would say because looking at your card, you're 8th place in ERA and 6th in WHIP. So it has not been quality.
Hey, you can't win every week. They're resting their arms. We don't want to have any blowouts. I watched a video on having arm blowouts. It's not pretty. You don't want to ruin your whole career over one game.
That's true. Even Thomas, who's been AFK, he did manage somehow week 4 to have a 62.1 innings pitched. So he did make it into there. But yes, Scott and Aaron recently has been starting a ton. I noticed week 7 was crazy. There was a lot of really high innings pitch counts. So I've put like the crazy high standard of 70. I think we only had like 3 teams after week 1 make 70 innings pitched. So that's like the high mark for an insane amount of pitching, right?
Yes. Art had 79. Good Lord.
Mm-hmm. And Vince had 79 week 3. So like if you got over 70 though, that's crazy. That was rare. I did it a couple times, week 4, week 6. So I was like going out of my way to try to do it. So week 7, right? I was at 69.2. Vince was at 69. Scott was at 71. Lucas was at 75. And Aaron was at 70.1. So 5 teams were like right at 70 or higher, which is, I don't know if that's just an indication of who's streaming now or what, but
I just had to throw the kitchen sink at Scott because that was the only way I knew I'd be able to compete because you just take a look at his batting. Pitching's the only way to.
Yeah, and his ERA and WHIP is low too. This is Andrew's strategy to beating Scott. Use all 6 substitutions on pitchers. And
Absolutely.
Just try to kill him in numbers and hope that it works. It hasn't worked for anyone yet except for me, who's beaten Scott. Listen to me, everyone.
I tied him.
And then the bottom number is the total. So all your weeks together. For example, even though Ethan is all red and Thomas was in the yellow one week, Thomas is actually lower. 344 innings pitched on the year. Ethan's at 358. But yeah, Scott, number 1, 474 innings pitched. So a lot. Oh, already 7 weeks in, he's already 100 pitches ahead of Thomas. Which is just crazy. That's a lot of innings pitched.
Over 100.
Over 100 more. There's 5 teams that have hit that 450 mark or really close to it. I'm at 449. And then there's 5 teams that just, aren't there. So that's what Ethan said earlier, quantity over quality, or you just don't like streaming pitchers or whatever. So there's certain teams that are just in the 300s still. So at bats. This is the most shocking out of all my stat collections I've done so far. Look at Chris for at bats. So same thing. I set an average, it's 230. And then I set a range, 220 to 240. That's a pretty big range. If you're under 220 at-bats that week, then you're in the red. Chris has only made it to 228 week 3. Every other week he's been in the red. He does not start a lot of bats. And then Thomas, who's basically AFK, he's only had 1 week in the red.
It's wild to me.
It's his strategy. He can't manage the team badly if he doesn't manage the team.
It's true. There's only 3 teams that have hit 1,800. Lucas, you are literally at 1,800. Nick's at 1,820. And then Art's at 1,847. So you 3 are just...
it helps.
You guys are just way out there. And honestly, other than last week, you were on a tear. Of like at
and the reason was I think a big portion of that was I think the Yankees were on a 23 game stretch without a break. So this weekend, I think today is their first no game day.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I always try to fill up a spot. I came really close. Week 6, 220. Week 7, 221. So I was right at the mark not to be in the red for those 2 weeks. I didn't start a catcher the last 2 weeks. And I've definitely had days where there's people not playing just on my lineup, but I just don't have any other options. And I can't. I've rostered so many pitchers that I'm not able to have all these just backups sitting around. So I've struggled a little bit the last couple weeks, but I think brighter days ahead for me on batting. I feel confident I can stay at least in the range of 220. But yeah, those are the big stats I put together. I know this is probably running a little long, but I wanted to at least look at the matchups this week, the Week 8 matchups. First game, me versus Nick. I can't say revenge game because none of us have ever played each other yet, but it's 4th place versus 5th place. He's 33 and 33. I'm 32 and 28. And I mentioned it earlier, but I feel like every podcast I just come on here and talk crap about Nick, so I feel like he wants this one, right? I'm the villain to him.
I suppose you must be.
I mean, that's my assumption. Do you have a rival, like someone you want to beat that week more than anyone else?
It's you mainly just because I want to make you look bad.
I assume that has to be kind of everyone's goal, right? Because I'll probably mention the matchup on the podcast if I lose, but
for me, it's. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for me, it's not that I really want to beat Nick. I just really don't want to lose to him. I feel like I've questioned all of his moves. I'm constantly second guessing his team. I do not want to go out here and get destroyed this week. I really want to win.
I mean, if we're going true adversaries, it's definitely Art. I got to put that old man in his place.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I've done it once, and I'll do it again. I don't care about the rest of the league, as long as I put that man in his place.
I haven't played Art yet. I am looking forward to that matchup. I'll say, though, honestly, like, the two that I really want to make sure I win are the two I'm on this call with. Because I lost to both of you guys the first 2 weeks and started off so bad. And there's not officially divisions in our league, but because there's 21 weeks and there's 9 opponents, everyone has 3 opponents that you play 3 times. And everyone else you only play twice. So you two are the people I play 3 times. And I'm hoping that by the end of the season, I have a positive record versus you guys. It started off really bad the first 2 weeks, so I have a lot of ground to make up. And I'm really going to go all out on those weeks, more so than normal, I guess. I don't know how I can do more, but I'm going to be careful. I'm going to make sure I win this time. In my dream, like if we're really fantasizing here, I somehow beat Lucas with a trade in our rematch.
We'll see. I think for me it's a 3-parter. It's like my true adversary is Art, who I think is the one person who really truly embarrassed me so far with that 5-4 loss, and that was mismanagement by my part. And then the other 2 parts are like, you always want to beat the person who's number 1. You always want to win against the person who's in 10th place, because if you don't do that, then next week you're on the podcast.
Yeah.
You're in the hot seat.
Well, it's hard for me to throw what is it? You can't throw don't throw rocks
stones in glass houses.
Yeah. Like I went 5-5 versus Thomas, so who can I judge? It did make me sad. I was hoping to run up the score that week, but so as annoyed as I am, the last 4 weeks I've gotten 5 wins each week. I do have myself projected to go 5-5 versus Nick this week. I do think this is a cool matchup. One, because of how much crap I've talked about Nick's team, but also, like I said, 4th and 5th, we're both really close. We both have teams with high potential that need to start performing, so we're kind of in the same spot. I think I just match up well on the pitching side. His pitching's been a little worse, so I think I can win in wins, saves, strikeouts, and I projected myself to go winning in home runs and RBIs you can see when I took the snapshot, I didn't have any home runs yet. I've already hit a bunch of home runs today. I think I have 2 or 3.
Yeah, 4 were hit 1 at least.
Yeah, I'm at two home runs, so I am winning those categories already. But yeah, no, I just I think how many starting pitchers I have, and I have 3 okay. I'll say I have 1 really good and 2 okay closers. I think I'm just gonna wins and saves. I think I will win that, and I think I'll win strikeouts because of how many pitchers I have. And I think I'm just a little better at batting. Finally, a team I'm a little better than at home runs and RBIs. So 5-5 is how I have it shaken up.
I'd say that I agree with that. And I think that, yes, last week really is a good example of how teams are finally finding their footing. We had a lot of really close games last week.
Yeah. Every week for me. Every week seems to come down to, and this is what I like about fantasy baseball, but it's also frustrating. Every loss has come down to some sort of manager decision I made. Like, I picked up this guy instead of that guy, or like, I don't know. It's been so close. Like I said, I won on a mistake Aaron made last week. Aaron started Wheeler. He didn't need to. He wasn't going to surpass me in wins. He wasn't going to surpass me in ERA. But he started Wheeler just to start him, and he ended up making his whip .02 worse. And I ended up winning that week because of it, 5-4. So it's all come down to like manager decisions, and there's been a lot of weeks closer than I thought they would be. Even the overall standings are like pretty close. I don't know. I feel like this whole league's closer than I thought. I figured there would be 4 teams on top, just like destroying everyone, and then like a bunch of middling. All right, next matchup, Lucas versus Thomas. It's hard to pick Thomas to win. I mean, especially because he's not doing anything. I have him winning in whip and stolen bases, and I think I picked those 2 because that's what you're bad at. I know. Okay, so I know he's second overall in stolen bases. You're not very good at that, so that's the one I gave him. And then you weren't very good at whip, and he somehow had an okay whip. So those are the 2 I'm giving him. And I have you winning 8-2.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas already has 3 stolen bases today.
Yeah, so
No.
Thomas still.
No,
And look, he had 0 when I took the screenshot. 0. So
Yeah.
those are the 2 I'm giving him. I think he'll win stolen bases and at least one other category randomly. I don't think the 10-0 is happening this week versus Thomas.
No, it's 6. It's going to be a 6-4. All you have to do is take a look at the current standings. I currently have a 10.38 ERA. So
That could come down. Yeah, I mean you'll start
8.2
so many more pitching.
innings pitched.
If you get to 70 innings, that's just a blip on the radar. You can overcome that.
We
Ethan,
shall overcome.
are you calling for any big upset here? I mean, 8-2, I think.
Oh,
The same pick.
honestly, if Thomas wins, Lucas should just quit the league. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Who is Thomas's
You'd like
one
to
win
win, yeah.
verse? Who was that?
I think that we covered it in the
It was
last
Vince.
podcast.
It was no. It was Aaron. He beat
It was
Aaron
Aaron.
6-4 in week 2, and then his only tie is versus me 5-5, and I feel great shame over as I should over that tie. So, yeah, Thomas has an okay batting team, but I think you will just start more bats than him. So yeah, 8-2. All right, Ethan versus Vince. Vince has had a really disappointing team so far this year. He's in 9th place. So this is kind of battle at the bottom, 8th place versus 9th place. You both really need this. I have Ethan winning ERA, whip, which Vince is terrible at. And I have you winning stolen bases as well, Ethan. And then I have Vince just destroying after that. He's really hard to beat in saves. He's been lately starting a lot of pitchers. And like last week, he had 69 innings pitched. So I think that will lead to him winning strikeouts. And then his batting, your batting has been. I guess your batting's been okay the last few weeks. I don't know. It's a toss-up. I just had to guess at some of these.
You'd like to think I'd lose, wouldn't you?
It just it just supports my bias that I think your team's been kind of lucky in its record. And 7-3, I'm calling Vince. Vince is ready to get back in this. I keep calling it every week. I call Vince to win, and he's just never doing it. So maybe at what point do we just say Vince is never going to turn it around? We're 1/3 of the season in now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a theory. Like his Cubs that were cursed. I think Vince's team is cursed until he has the brisket. Until he has the cookout,
And
his team is cursed.
You know what? I think you could be right.
You know what? I'm calling it right now on the fly. 7-3, Ethan's favor. Vince is cursed. This
I'm pretty sure that's what it's at right now. 7-3. So I just got to maintain.
Vince is cursed until he has that brisket cookout, and he can come up with whatever excuses he wants. But it's his team's paid the price for him refusing to have that cookout. All right, next matchup: Aaron versus Art. I think Aaron's been doing better recently of making ads, pickups. I feel like he's definitely stayed with it, but Art's team's just so good. I'm honestly surprised Art's not somehow in first. If Scott's team wasn't just next world good, so yeah, I have Art winning 6-4.
Not so good. That's my question.
Right?
Because it's his first time, right?
Yeah, it's his first time. I think
That he's told us about.
I think that he just made the obvious picks, and they've all worked out really well. So I think he has the luck factor of just he's made good pickups, and he's been active, like innings pitched. So like starting a lot of pitchers, he's number 1 in the league. And then for at bats, he's not number 1, but he's like right in the middle. Like it's not like he's not starting bats. So I don't know. He's managing the team well, and he drafted a really good team. So what are you gonna do? He's been blessed by the baseball gods. Probably because he's never made a promise about brisket.
It's infuriating because you see him use like 2 ads per week. And you're like, why can't that be me?
I know. I will say, I have I still have 4 subs this week, and I've got nothing to use them on. I really like all my pitchers, and so I don't want to drop any of them for like a 2-start pitcher. Like there's none I feel like, oh, I really want to just drop this trash player. Like I like all my pitchers, and I'm in a good spot at batting, so I don't know. I don't really have anyone I need to drop or pick up. So this might be the first week I don't use all 6 ads.
Trade some of the ads to
I
me.
know it seems inconceivable because I don't think I've ever gone 3 days without using all my ads. But I literally don't need anyone right now.
You'll have an itch to scratch tomorrow. You'll be like, I've got a tinker.
The one that I was looking at was Duvall, who Ethan dropped. I wanted to pick him up after Kikuchi started, but I think I dropped Kikuchi for Strider, so yeah.
You can pick Duvall up, but he's trash. Fair warning.
That's who I really wanted to pick up, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I don't know. I'm really happy with where my team is. If there's a really hot at bat that I can find, maybe I would consider it, but I doubt that's just going to pop up midweek, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so next one, the Altina Showdown. I've been looking forward to this matchup, actually. And I do have... It's hard to pick against Scott for all the reasons we've highlighted over the course of this podcast. But I do have Scott winning 8-2. But this is the one I would like to see an upset at. I'd like to see Chris turn it around starting this week, beating his brother. Are any of you brave enough to call it?
No,
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
it would be.
I mean, if he can get healthy at his bats, like if his team was still a really great batting team, it'd be easier to pick him. But he has really low at bats. Scott has really high at bats, and Scott's number 1 in batting right now, on top of being number 2 at pitching. So it's really hard to pick Chris to win here at all. Even though Chris is one of my favorite teams going into the season, he's got to get healthy. He's got to find pickup. So I don't know what you do if you're Chris to fix it, but it's a bad spot this week, and I think it gets a little worse. So 2-8, you never like seeing it. That's a blowout, really, in our league. 2-8, and yeah, what are you gonna do? Chris is on the decline. Scott's riding high. It's hard to pick it any different. It would be a victory to pull Scott to a tie, or even a 4-6. That would be a good week for Chris to just minimize the damage. But yeah, that's all. That's all I got this week. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Are we bringing Caleb in? I guess that's the question I have. I don't know if I missed it earlier or.
No,
This would be the week to do it.
I've been trying to bring Caleb in since week 2. So, you want to know the what's preventing it? So for
What?
Caleb to have Thomas's fantasy Yahoo account on his phone, so he can set the lineup, all he has to do is log in, right? But when you log in, you have to type in a one-time code that pops up on Thomas's phone, and he needs to send it to Caleb right away within like a minute for him to type it in. And then he's in. He doesn't have to do that ever again. It's just the one time to approve the device. And we have not been able to get Thomas to do that. So that's what's been holding it up.
So Thomas doesn't want to give up control, is what I'm hearing.
Just share control even. I wanted Thomas to do it for me, but I was like, you know what? It's kind of a conflict of interest if I'm like managing 2 teams. How can I ever like fairly do that? I feel like it has to be someone outside the league, right? So I don't know. I'm hoping Thomas, we can get Thomas to do that. So maybe that is this week. I would love to say Caleb's taking over. I don't know what week that'll be or what unlucky person will get screwed over by that. Honestly, I think the most fair thing is for it to happen week 10. Because after week 9, everybody's played Thomas once. So no one was...
This week this is the best week to, after this week, I guess, to have him take over. Or at least like Friday, Saturday this week. Turn over the team, let him tinker around with it.
So week 9, he plays... This is why I'm saying week 10. Because week 9, he plays Chris for the first time. And Chris could use that turnaround. He could use that easy week to turn his season around. You know what I mean? And then, so week 10, everybody's played Thomas once at that point. I think that's the week Caleb's got to take control. So I haven't pushed it too hard just because I'm kind of waiting for that week 10 moment to make the big switch. All right, I'll end it there. Thanks for hopping on for this one.
I'm always
Always
for the
ready.
pod.